Hey y'all, my name is Nick and welcome back to City Woods Co. So in this video, I want to do something that we have never done before, something that I have dreamed about doing, but I never thought I could actually do it. Well, today we're going to do it. It's steam bending. Now, if you know anything about me, you know I like to fly fish. And a couple videos ago, Landon and I designed fly fishing fly boxes out of epoxy and wood. Well, today is a little bit different. We are going to steam bend a fly fishing landing net. Now, I'm gonna design this landing net on the CNC, I'm gonna cut it out, build a steam box, bend the wood, tie it up, and make myself a net. So, if that sounds cool to you, stick around. This is gonna be a cool video. Let's get to watching.
So this is going to be a completely custom fly fishing net. So the whole process begins at the computer. We're going to design this and cut the entire thing out on our Avid CNC machine. Now, we ran through several different options when it came to the design, the shape of the landing net, but we finally landed on one specific design. Get it? We landed on it. Anyway. Now what we designed for the Avid CNC to cut out was the actual hoop that the steam bent wood will be formed around. Now we did cut a template for a handle right here, but the actual handle will be cut out shortly. Now the hoop that we'll use for the glue ups gets cleaned up at the router table, just using a flush trim bit and cutting off all the extra that we did not cut all the way through with on the Avid. Once we finalized the design and the shape of the handle that we wanted, we set it up on the CNC so that it could cut it out. Now we are going to use beautiful, and I mean beautiful, curly maple for this. This is actually musical grade maple and it looks amazing. We cut a couple different handles just so we had some extras just to choose from in case we really had a screw up basically. Once we had everything cut out, we could actually lay it out and see sort of how everything's gonna look, and this thing's looking sweet already. So the one thing that I did do was I went ahead to make sure that the hoop was the right size before we got too far along, was to go ahead and put the net on the actual form just to see if it's the right size. And according to this, it looks so good. Now if you're a true fly fisherman, you realize that this net is not really the correct size, and I did that on purpose. It's a custom designed net for a friend that does fly fishing and pond fishing. So before any type of glue up, we want to make sure that we have everything taped off so glue doesn't stick to our form. That would just be a nightmare to try to pull apart. So I'm using Tyvek tape, which worked perfectly for this job. All I did was run a line of tape all the way around the mold and then cut it so that I could fold it over with the least amount of wrinkles. Again, this is not really crucial. It's not really necessary to get all the wrinkles out, but it just makes life at the later on stages a little bit easier. Now that the form's all squared away and ready to go, it's time to pick out the wood for this project now. Again, like I said, this wood has the most beautiful grain, the most beautiful figure I have seen in a long time. It's musical grade hard maple and musical grade walnut because of the tight curl in this figure wood. Now we cut the stock down to length at the miter saw. Now for this exact design of net, we figured that we had to have 62 inches worth of stock to bend around the form. These measurements are crucial to know that you have enough material to stretch around that form during your glue up. A couple passes over the joiner with the maple and the walnut give us a nice sharp straight edge to reference at the table saw so we can start cutting these pieces down to bendable size. For these strips we went with a thickness just a little bit shy of 1/4 of an inch. That's going to allow us to have nice bendability around that form, and it's going to leave a good profile look on the nets. I actually found for me the easiest way to cut all these strips was just to move the fence on the table saw over ever so slightly to continue to get the same thickness of strips. Alright, now here's where things start to really get fun. So I used a 4-inch PVC pipe with a cap silicone to the bottom to create a bath. I like to soak these strips overnight for 24 hours so that I can soften all those wood fibers and make bending even that much easier. And already you can see that beautiful curl in that maple right there. But of course wood floats, so you have to put a cap on it just to keep everything down in the water. Now if you haven't seen our last YouTube video, it describes how we constructed this steam box that we're going to use for today's project. It's a quick and easy 2-hour build. The video shows you step-by-step instructions on how to build your own steam box. Now is the fun, steamy part of the project. So we let the steamer, which in our case, it's a wallpaper steamer, we let it heat up for about 20-30 minutes and really got a good boil going, and then loaded the steam box with all the strips that we wanted to use. Always put in extra material into your steam box just in case you need something when it comes time to bending. We're only bending these strips around the form now. We're not doing any glue up, so all you need are gloves and the wood. Oh, and clamps. All the clamps. If you have to go buy more, go buy more. Now when steam is contained in a box like this, it can be well north of 200 degrees Fahrenheit when you open it, so just be careful. Now I wanted to push my stress level to the max, so I did this bend for the first time ever during an Instagram live.
Y'all can all laugh at me because this is the very first time I've ever done anything like it.
Hey, I gotta give you props for sharing your first attempt at bending.
I know this.
I don't know that I've ever done a video of me bending because of how long it takes to get good at it.
Guys, it's working.
You ever been on one of those rides where it just scares the crap out of you, but your adrenaline is so high it's the most fun you've had in a long time? Well, that's this situation right here for me. My stress levels were high, but I was having so much fun, I didn't even realize how much fun it was going to be. Now you can see that I'm not completely attacking this thing with clamps everywhere, because this isn't the most crucial part of a steam bend. The glue up is going to be the most important part. So right now you're just sort of setting the wood to the form. You're just giving that wood some muscle memory to know exactly what type of shape it has to stay into. So as you can see, I did 2 different nets because I didn't know how the first one was going to come out, even though the first one was my best one of all. And I let these nets stay in the form for 24 hours and came back the next day and started dismantling them and letting the clamps come off. Now the wood's not going to hold its exact form. You're going to have spring back, and that's completely normal. But we're going to eliminate that when it's time to glue. Now of course these are fishing nets, so they're going to get wet. So my glue of choice for any project that's going to get wet is Titebond 3. This stuff works amazingly for cutting boards and bowls and food grade stuff, anything that's going to get washed, but I'm hoping this net gets wet in the river. Now, after putting a liberal amount of glue on all of the surfaces, including the handle, do not forget the handle, it's time to put this thing in the clamps for the final time and get the actual steam bent lamination complete. Now here's where you want to use every clamp you own. Maybe borrow the neighbor's clamps from down the street. You have to have a clamp literally everywhere you can put it. And that's going to make a nice bond between all those laminations. Now the first flaw in the design of my net that I found is actually where the area where the hoop strips join the handle is a very difficult spot to get those tight laminations. So I had to pull out a K-body from Bessie, and I had to use their torque system that you can put an Allen in the end of the handle and really torque it down tight so that it closes. Don't worry about the clamp leaving compression marks on your wood. That area where the handle meets the hoop is actually going to get cut down on the bandsaw and shaped. And I still can't even believe it, but my first glue up with a steam bent lamination project was a huge success. And after 24 hours, here comes the true test of success, whether or not it's going to hold up and whether or not it's going to come off of the form. Did I glue it to it? But it came out perfectly and it looks so good. So now over to the drum sander. Do a couple passes on the drum sander to get everything cleaned up, get rid of all those glue marks, and level out those strips. If you had any warpage from a bad glue up, you can use the drum sander to try to level those out a little bit. Now here's why we don't care about those compression marks that were left over by the clamp. We're going to cut all that away. Once you have the design and the contour of the handle shape that you want, you just take it to the bandsaw and cut it out. Now also remember, you want to have as much of the glue up as you can to create a stable joint for the handle. Unlike me, I cut most of mine away. That's probably another design flaw that I'll change in the future. But right now, it still looks amazing. You'll see, trust me, watch. Now if you noticed earlier when we were actually gluing up the net, you noticed that the handle fit inset into the hoop form, almost like a little key weight. And that is specifically designed to keep that handle in place from slipping around and getting dislocated and becoming unsymmetrical. I had several buddies on Instagram give me that little tidbit of information, and it became so helpful in the long run. But now that that's all done, we don't need that piece anymore sticking out. So I just used a jigsaw and just ate away at it and then sanded the rest. Now the easiest way to contour the outside and inside of your net is to use a spindle sander. Now I don't have a traditional spindle sander, but my Shopfox drill press has an oscillating mode which does basically the exact same thing, and actually I like it a whole lot better because of situations that you're going to see in just a minute. Now while I'm taking the time to fine sand the detail into this handle, why don't you go ahead and hit subscribe on the channel and hit that notification bell so you're notified on all of our upcoming videos. Now the thing I love about my drill press oscillating spindle sander is the fact that I can drop the bed of the drill press all the way out of the way and do some funky little sanding bits like this right here. This is allowing me to add a really cool little contour to the handle, almost like a cove on both sides. It really adds a cool detail element that I've really fallen in love with. Now to add the recess in the handle for tying the net on, I purchased a router bit specifically designed for this application. I will have a link in the description below to it. It basically just rides all the way up against those bearings and cuts one little groove all the way around the outside of your net. Now the best way I found to add a little detail to the handle and shape it so that it has a good contour in the hand is to use a chamfer bit. All you have to do is continue to eat away with that chamfer bit until you feel like you have the right fit for your hand or your customer's hand and the design that stands out to you. Now finally this thing is starting to look like what it's supposed to be, but I want to mark for all of the holes to tie the net in. So I'm using clothespins, which is what everyone on Instagram told me to use. Use clothespins to hold the net in place so that I can drill each hole for where I'm going to sew in the net. Now this part I took my time with because I did not want to mess this up. But basically I'm going to put 2 holes at each of the rubber hoops to pull pressure opposite from each other, so that when I pull this net tight, everything is really snug and there's no slack in the net. Now that groove hides the drill holes on the outside, but make sure that you're pushing that drill bit straight into the wood so that when it pops out on the outside, those drill holes directly in the middle of the net hoop. Now with a little bit of a water pop and some sanding, like extensive sanding, this net is ready for one more added custom bonus to it. Now this net is a gift to a very dear friend of mine, and so I wanted to customize it with his initials. So a new friend to me and local laser engraver got the job done for me. The finish that I'm going for on this net was a tung oil finish. I applied this over about a day and a half in about 6 layers. I did lightly sand between each coat except for the final coat, and the finish on this thing came out beautifully. After I let that dry, it was time to sew in the net, and let me tell you, I can tell I'm starting to get old. You gotta hold your mouth right nowadays when you're trying to thread a needle, which I never do. I am no seamstress. Now, I am no expert at sewing a net in either because this is my first time, and this may not be even the correct way to do it, but this is how I did it. So I moved to the farthest hole on your next loop and loop the net to it and come back through the same hole. Then I go to the closest hole to you and loop the net and bring it through. Then I run the entire line all the way across both holes and down to the next farthest hole on the next loop. Is that confusing to you, or did you get that? It's hard to show this step very quickly in a video without spending an entire 20 minutes on that topic. But basically what you're doing is you're using the cord itself to loop over the existing holes to cinch everything together. But now that the net is pretty much in, this baby's a wrap. Let's go take a look at it.
Alright, I'm not gonna lie, that was the most fun I've had on a project in a very long time. Like, it caught me by surprise how fun that was. I am completely hooked. Just throw me a line, I'm drowning in happiness right now. Alright, I'm done with the fishing jokes, but This net came out amazingly, and I'm so happy with it. I cannot believe the success that I had on my very first steam bending project. It just blows my mind. Now, is it perfect? No. I'll learn from it. I'll redesign it. The handle's got to be a little bit longer. There's little things that I want to design differently, but for the first time doing this, I'm ecstatic. I just can't get over how nice this is. So this goes to show you that I had no idea what I was doing. I had never tried this before, but it worked so well for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I had fun making it. If you did, go ahead and hit like and subscribe down below. Leave a comment, let me know what you think about these nets. And I hope to see you guys in the comments telling me stuff that you don't think you can do, but that you're gonna go try. So until next time, I'm gonna go try something I don't think I can do today, and that's catch a fish. I'll see you guys on the next one.